the authoritative allocation of values in a society. That's the definition of politics, according to American political scientist David Easton. In a week where the major political parties in this country have been haggling over whether governance is the allocation of appointments and government largesse to family and friends, I welcome you to this week's installment of Press Conference on that note. Press Conference is a program where journalists gather to discuss and dissect matters that have come up as a result of the major press conferences and press engagements in the course of the week under review. My name is Duke Mensah Opoku. In this edition, we begin from a sector that was very active in this country from the 1940s up to the 1960s to the 1970s there. But I'm talking about the railways sector. This week, the sector minister held a meet-the-press briefing to update Ghanaians on the developments in that sector. We'll be looking at those issues there. Also, the war of words, accusations, counter-accusations between the MPP and the NDC over whether this government is practicing a nepotistic dynastic rule where family and friends rule or have appointments or have everything to do with governance in the country. We'll be looking at those issues. And finally, government says it's going to consolidate most of its gains in the past 2 years at the macro and the micro economy level as the budget comes up next week in Parliament. We'll be looking at that as well. The show is live and interactive via the WhatsApp line 0550585832. You can join us via the Facebook stream. Drop your comments. We would read them on Twitter. The hashtag is Press Conference. We'll take a break. When I come back, I'll introduce my guests and we'll delve into the issues. Stay with us. You're welcome back to Press Conference right here on Citi TV. Thanks for choosing this channel. Joining me to do the discussions tonight, to my immediate left, is Gordon Asari Bidiako. He's editor for ABC News and he does a couple of other things as well. But for now, he's editor for ABC News. Welcome.
Thank you, my brother. Long time.
Yes.
You're looking good.
Yes. We only get to interact on that platform.
At least.
Yes. All right. It's the Political Science Students Association platform. Yes, just to make it, just to clarify things. No any other platform.
I know.
Next to him, Jifa Ametam. She's the host of Breakfast Daily on Citi TV. Welcome, Jifa.
Good evening, Duke. How are you?
Very well. And to my far left is Kobi Fiagbe, a former police officer, but now he's the editor of the Ghanaian Lens newspaper. Welcome, Kobi.
We don't get to interact on any platform.
I knew this was going to come. Welcome.
I knew you were directing your explanation to me, so that's how come you want to
disappoint me. I wasn't directing my explanation to you, but I just wanted to clarify for our audience. All right, so let's set the ball rolling. The Akufo-Addo government announced or named a railways minister, himself a heavyweight in the MPP, contested once for presidential ticket of that party. I'm talking about the Honorable Jogate. Now, he has been updating Ghanaians on some of the developments in the rail sector. He met the press this week. First, one of the major, big-ticket items happening currently in the rail sector is the construction of that rail line from Tema through Akosombo to Mpakadan. This was the update he had for Ghanaians on that rail line.
The Tema Mpakadan project, which is a completely different project in terms of the conceptualization and even in terms of the alignment after kilometer 66, and in terms of the cost, it's $48 million more than the previous project. So this is the first time that public railway is going to enter into the Volta region. And what we have done as a ministry is that even though we develop these projects as part of a larger section, because you see the entire network in Ghana will be 4,000 kilometers and over. So even the Ghana to Burkina section, Paga section, which is about 800 kilometers, is part of a network which will be about 4,000 kilometers. Within that 800 kilometers, as we are developing, we also develop certain sections to be economically viable and stand by themselves.
So that's it by way of the Tema Akosombo Mpakadan rail line, expected to be completed somewhere next year. He also spoke about the cost, the question of the cost. of that rail line and other projects in that sector?
So far, we have been negotiating all our railway projects below $6 million. As far as per kilometer, sorry. As far as the present line is concerned, it averages to about 4-point-something kilometers per million per kilometer. When you go to Accra station, you see that there are several lines. When you reach a station, you multiply the lines because the train will park, the train will turn around, what they call shunting, and so on. And so you multiply the lines. And so that's why I say it is 4-point-something, because we are very much work in progress. And we seek to add on these things. We are getting proposals from Ghana Railway Development Authority. Then we will take it to finance. Then we'll take it to cabinet, and then we'll add on this.
So that's Jogate. Finally, he had the opportunity to update Ghanaians once again on that rail line that's supposed to run through Ghana to Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, to be precise.
200 kilometers is in Burkina Faso. They decided that they would take 50% of all the costs that lead to the actual execution of the project. That 50% of the cost is cost relating to the feasibility study, cost relating to the choosing of the contractor. Any cost that occurs before we commence building, the Burkina Faso government decided that in the spirit of brotherhood, not looking at the percentage of works in one country or another country, they want to contribute 50% to show their commitment.
All right, so that's Jogate, MP for Sikado Ketan, Minister for Railway Development. Let me come to the studio now and begin with you, Gordon.
Yeah.
This is a ministry, I mean, it was there during the Kufuor era. Many said there was nothing to show for it. I mean, you had, it was ports, harbours and railways.
Yeah.
With this
Professor
Ekunfi as the minister.
Yeah.
Then they said we didn't see a lot in terms of what was done in that sector. A transport ministry which had one minister and a deputy, President Akufo-Addo came, divided into about three. Now we have aviation, we have railway, we have the transport. Are we getting value for money from the creation of a railway ministry on its own, as evidenced by what we are seeing so far?
Well, Duke, let me say good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity once again. I think, per what we are seeing and what we are hearing, I wouldn't say we are getting good for money, whatever, because I haven't done any critical analysis of the project so far. But I think if you go to Takoradi and then Takwa area, it is evident that some things are happening over there. And then a sector like that with the minister in the state of Jogate, you realize that it seems the president really plays had huge priority over the rural sector. Because I think the importance of a vibrant rural sector cannot be overemphasized. Yeah. If we were to have an active rural sector, I think from Kumasi to Accra, it shouldn't take us more than 1 hour from Kumasi to Accra, which means somebody can stay in Kumasi, Santasi, pick taxi to rail station and come to work in Accra. 1 hour, 2 hours, you are back to Kumasi. So I think we need, it seems the media hasn't showed much focus in that sector. Maybe we should throw our light there and see what really is happening. But per the press conference and what I have seen in Takwa and Takoradi, I think we should say kudos and encourage them. But it is very capital intensive. Mm-hmm. But our financial muscle is also weak. So it means if you are going to really get a very vibrant rural sector, it means we need to go borrow much and then see what we can do. But if we are not willing to borrow, the railway sector cannot be vibrant.
Okay, let me come to you, Jifa. The railway sector is a sector, if it's developed, we could, bring down even the kind of pressure that's on our routes. Mm-hmm. It could also, it's faster, it can move goods faster than all. What do you think accounts for how neglected that sector is over the years?
I think it's with everything else in the country. Theoretically, it makes sense, but then the willpower is not there. So we all come together, we'll talk the good talk, we will launch it, and then we'll go back to doing the same things that we're doing. I think everything that the minister said is good, theoretically. If we're able to actually implement it a couple of years from now, then we can be able to see that, okay, people are able to move freely now. There's increased productivity. Goods are able to move. There's more money circulating within the country because it's no longer such a stressful thing going from one place to the other. And you save cost as well, right? Because even the nature of some of the trotros we take, it's not something we should be using. It's not fit for purpose. So I think it's good. The intentions are good, but I'm just not too excited until I see progress. I see that, okay, these are the deliverables that we set for ourselves. This is how we've met them. So if, for instance, the minister said something along the lines of, in 2 years, this and this and this is what's going to happen, or in 3 years, we're going to move into Burkina Faso. These are the opportunities we can tap into from both sides. We will now be able to move goods freely, amongst the two countries. Then I'll be hopeful, but
at least they've agreed on cost.
Which is really great that we are not absorbing so much.
Which means there is some progress there.
Yes, but then it's still all talk for now, which is a great starting point. I would like to see what comes after the talk so that we can begin to see that 5-6 years from now, people are just moving freely across the country and we're all making money from it.
Okay, let me come to you. Kobe, exciting development in that sector, wouldn't you agree?
Good evening to us and our viewers. My view on the matter is actually been shared by Jifa here. We've been excited by so many talks in the past, and it had always remained talk. Let's see progress. So far, I do know that there had been some work done. In fact, I think 2016 or thereabouts, Mahama, inaugurated some part of the Western Region rail line, and the work was ongoing. The speed with which I had expected it to take off, obviously these audit things had delayed it a little bit. And so I just hope that now that it seems to be taking off again, we will see real progress, and not we will, because the time for we will is long past. We are now in the dying embers of the second half, if not getting to extra time. So we need action. The talk is good. It gives hope, but beyond the giving of the hope, we must see the deliveries.
All right, so that's Kobe Fiagbe. That's by way of the discussions in the rail sector. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll be monitoring what goes on there. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll look into the other issues on the table. Welcome back. This is Press Conference right here on Citi TV. I have in studio Gordon, Jifa, and Kobe. We're discussing the major press engagements and briefings in the course of the week under review. Of course, a big one. The NDC says President Akufo-Addo has appointed about 51 members of his family and his friends to play various roles in his administration. For them, that is the highest point of nepotism in this country, and therefore they are calling for the enactment of an anti-nepotism law. Sami Jemfi is their National Communications Officer.
After our meticulous investigations into appointments made by President Akufo-Addo since the year 2017, we submit that the Akufo-Addo government is the most nepotistic government in the 62-year history of Ghana, and we dare say the world. Even Idi Amin Dada, the butcher of Uganda, Jem Bedel Bukasa, and Mobutu Sese Seko, the looter of Zaire, now Democratic Republic of Congo, will envy President Akufo-Addo's unprecedented brand of nepotism and clanism. Similarly, the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, and other key government functionaries have also joined the president in this race to the bottom. Taking a cue from their boss, they have joined the nepotistic practice of abusing the power to appoint various people into positions to satisfy their families and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, our checks have revealed that there are at least over 50 persons in the Akufo-Addo government whose appointments can be related to their families, friends, business, or close connections to Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Dr. Bawumia, his vice, their ministers, and other appointees. This unprecedented but unenviable practice, we contend, injures good governance and breeds corruption.
That's Sami Jemfi, National Communications Officer for the NDC. Well, the NPP has been responding to that claim. They say that the NDC should be engaging in much more fruitful policy discussions and debates rather than such arguments. Henry Nana Boakye is the National Youth Organizer for the New Patriotic Party.
One would have thought that yesterday's press conference would have revealed how unqualified some of these appointees are, but none of them, or none of the issues we are discussing here happened yesterday. Is Kelly Gajapu not qualified to be on the board? What about Daniel Ogbami Tete as a head of GCE? What about Samson Agliko, who has been instrumental in the banking reforms? Charles Edubwahi is an asset to government, and so are the likes of Felicia Ashley and Yofi Grant, who helped the MPP, and they were all part in drafting the MPP's manifesto. These are the men and women of caliber who willingly left their lucrative jobs in the corporate sector to serve their country. So we are challenging the NDC that we want policy-based, ideas-based argument, not ranting and not making noise.
And I watch is National Youth Organizer for the NDC. I'll come to the studio now and begin the discussion. So, at least let's start from the Fourth Republic. We've had a president whose wife was very vibrant in activities of government. We've had a president whose brother, at least two of them, were at the presidency. One was economic advisor, the other was a staffer. I'm talking about President Mills.
Yeah.
We've had a president whose brother was defense minister. But to have a president who has, at least, even assuming that even the NDC's figure is wrong, over 20 closely related members of his family serving in his government, is that not a tad too much?
When is too much, too much?
That's the question.
Yeah, as if there was a cap somewhere that you could employ 20 family and friends into your government. There's no cap anywhere. But when Sami Jemfi was talking, he made mention of the fact that it could breed corruption, which is a fact. Nepotism, if not well catered for, can breed corruption. But has it led to corruption now? Out of the 51 people that he mentioned, has any of them engaged in any corrupt activity that because of their relationship with the president has failed to crack the whip? If there's an evidence of that, you just bring up.
The NDC mentions the PDS, which is supervised by the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, the cousin of the president. They have had cause to even mention Ken Bond. Of course, that is an issue that has not been able to have been proven anywhere, but it's an allegation that they point to. There are also other things that they mention, that if these people were not, say, friends or family members of the president, it could have probably cracked the whip.
No, so what is it about the PDS? I mean, people just make reference to hearsay, things that they hear outside. These things, you cannot say it on record that somebody here did this and that what he did is a corrupt related activity. They can just bandy names around that this person knows something about it, this person knows something about it. What does the person really know? What did the person really do that you can say is corrupt and that it may be shraj or SFO is no more.
That's Yoko.
You understand? Or Yoko should come in. They are just speculative. But for me, who will survive the test of nepotism in Ghana? No government can survive it. I remember way back 2005, when I was in journalism school, I think final year, I was writing my project work. My supervisor wanted me to write on nepotism under President J. Kufuor. That was way back 2005. So it predates the presidency of Nana Addo, John Mahama, Mills, even Kufuor. I'm sure if you go, it will even predate even Nkrumah. Nobody will survive. I mean, we're in the communal community. The definition of nepotism is the orientation of people with nuclear family orientation. It will be difficult for me to define nepotism in Ghana. It's very difficult. Because let me tell you something. If we were to go back from 1957 to now, all government appointees, let us look at their educational background. You get most of them coming from University of Ghana. Why?
That's the premier university.
Why?
So probably, and it was trained. It was basically put up to train administrators and people in governance and issues like that. That was what was supposed to train the clerical class for the colonial government then. Okay. So it only stands to reason. Right.
But Ken UST was also there. But because we've had presidents coming from University of Ghana, Achimota, Prempeh College, you see most of these government appointees emerging from these institutions. It is because they know them. It is because they believe in their competence. Okay? So if somebody has been placed somewhere and it's a square peg in a round hole, let the person come and say, this person doesn't have the requisite qualification to be there.
So let me understand your argument. Are you saying that it is right, but it is wrong, but we cannot do without it because of the kind of society we have? Or there is nothing wrong, or it's justifiable?
No. See, there's a danger beneath nepotism. You appoint your uncle, okay, who is older than you, as a minister, and the person is found wanting to do something. Will you have the courage enough to crack the whip? Will you, if you are able to have the courage to crack the whip, then that's all good. But how many of us will have the courage to crack the whip when the person is your close relative? If something of that sort has happened now, that because the person is a relative of the president and the person was found wanting, had breached any law, and the president decided not to crack the whip because he's a relative, then let's talk about that. Because for me, it will be very difficult for any government to survive the test of nepotism. You can't. Because you need people you trust, people you've gone into the trenches with, people who have contributed towards your campaign, people who have the competence. The 50 people that he's mentioned, which of these do they lack?
The NDC says that in the Mahama administration, there was only one blood relative of the president, Joyce Bauer, who is an expert in maritime law and was an expert in the area that he was appointed.
Yes.
He's also a lawyer.
Yes. No. And so, can you question her competence?
So, if you are doing that's such an analysis, especially when President Akufo-Addo said he would not appoint his family and friends into government, that is some form of hypocrisy.
You are good. Because the president himself said, when he was a flag bearer, that he will not appoint family and friends, then you can tag him, you can question him. That you said this in 2016 or 2015. Why have you appointed such a number of people? I mean, it's a legitimate question that you can ask him. But for me, it is not something that if I mount the stage, I will ever mention. Because I know that when I become president, certainly I will bring on board family and friends. People I know, people I trust, people whose competence I can vouch for. Because, as I said, no government in this country can survive the test of nepotism? No government. Because look, since 1996, he has been down there with the flag bearer of MPP till now, and he has the competence, he has the qualification. And what do you expect? Because their relatives, their cousins say, "Oh, you are my cousin, but I don't give you this position," which bars him from doing that. Nothing bars him. Okay, but now we are talking about the scale. Is that not it?
Yeah.
We are talking about the scale. But is there a bar anyway that yours 2%, mine was 45%, so 45% is bad? If 45% is bad, then 2% is equally bad. If you're talking about nepotism, just one is also nepotism, 45 is also nepotism. You understand? So for me, it's much ado about nothing. But probably because the president himself, when he was a flag bearer, said he was not going to practice family and friends government, that's why people are holding him to it. He should answer.
Okay, all right. So, let me come to Kobe. Kobe, this is a family. The President Akufo-Addo comes from a prominent political family. You won't doubt that. 3 of the 6 that we hold the foundation of our nationhood to are related to him, family-wise. It's a family that has been involved in almost every republic in this country. Even the first one, which was Kwame Nkrumah, had his own friction with that family. There was a speaker who came from that family, Aaron Oforiatta. First local government minister was also from that family, and Oforiatta. Second Republic, we had Pauli, we had there was also Jones Oforiatta, father of Ken Oforiatta.
Foreign Affairs Minister.
There was a foreign was also from this one. Let me lay the foundation for my question.
No, you see, that question.
Kobe, let me lay the foundation for that question. Even in Rawlings' government, there was an Oforiatta, Oreku Amufa in there. So it should tell you about the level of gravitas that the family has in the country's politics. Is there reason to doubt competence in such a family when one of its own is president and has given some of them appointments?
So didn't Akufo-Addo know all this history when he was casting insinuation against John Mahama that John Mahama was holding was operating a government of family and friends, and therefore when he comes, on the basis of that, when you give me the power, I will not appoint family and friends. Didn't he know that he comes from a prominent family with prominent people and well-qualified people who can be used, yet he was making that promise? So that argument is moot. That argument does not arise at all. The man set a certain standard. The standard he set was one of the reasons why the Ghanaian people gave him the mandate instead of another person. He told them that, look, this man that was in the seat was operating a family and friends government. Take the mandate from him and give it to me. When I come, notwithstanding all the qualified people, all the, the great history and legend or whatever it is that I have in my family, I will not operate family and friends. That is a solemn pledge you make
at the expense of competence?
He didn't know that he would need competent people before he was saying that I won't operate family and friends. Come on, let's stop making excuses for the man. The man made a pledge, and the pledge was to the Ghanaian people that I will not operate family and friends. And now, not just one, not just two, not just three, a whole 51.
Even that list has a question. Kwame Okufu is not a presidential staffer. His name was Kwame Okufu's name was.
Kwame Okufu is a member of the board, and the member
it was mentioned in that press conference that he was a presidential staffer.
No, I don't think anybody has mentioned.
I don't know
that he's a member of board.
Kwesi Amakwanta, Rose Minister, was mentioned. He's not related to the president.
Kwesi Amakwanta's mother is related to Akufo-Addo.
It's not related.
You know that as accounts, the relation from the mother side is even stronger than the relation from the father side.
It's not related to the president.
I am telling you that the mother comes from a part of the mother comes from Achim.
He's a member of parliament for an Achim constituency.
I'm telling you
that he's not related to Akufo-Addo.
Go and find out. The mother has a relation with Akufo-Addo.
And which relation is that?
Well, that's as far as I can say.
As far as you have been told, that's what you know.
No, what I've been told. As far as I know, he is not.
Well, but as far as I know, he is related to him.
Okay.
Now,
and several others on the list.
Like what? Several others like who?
They have been
like who?
They have been question marks about
like who?
Some of them. People mentioned Vida Asante. Vida Asante is not head of presidential household.
Yes.
It's mentioned.
Sammy Jeffrey himself has corrected.
I mean, if she's not a head of presidential household, but she's a member of the presidential household.
She's not head of presidential household. She's not even a member. She's not even a presidential staffer.
You see.
So all of these are holes that people are punching. There is no
hole. The point is that somebody had only one blood relation in his government. You tagged that government family and friends government. If even you have two,
who did that tag?
Is it not Islabera?
No. God didn't allow him to flow.
That was Abba Bagbin. It was Abba Bagbin who said family and friends.
Assuming that Abba Bagbin said family and friends, and Akufo-Addo did not believe in it, would he have gone to go and stand on a platform to say that? So please, stop trying to look elsewhere. Look within. The problem is Akufo-Addo and the pledge he made. And that is why this whole family and friend thing has become topical. Because, and you are right, if he had not gone to make that pledge, people would have talked about it. The NDC as a corporate entity would not have held a press conference on it. But it is precisely because he made a campaign issue of it and made a pledge to the people of Ghana. Then on that basis, we need to talk about it as a corporate entity. Because he has brought it into, and they say we should talk about policy. This is part of the policy. That was it not part of Akufo-Addo's policy position when he was making the pledge? You understand? So the thing is that he is right. Akufo-Addo has got to come and explain to us why he has had a change of mind, if indeed he has had a change of mind, or he was lying to us all along. You understand? So this talk about, some people are not this, some people are not that, it's neither here nor there. Even if it is just one more than the previous, it is one too many. Even if it is just one like the previous, it is still one too many, because that was what you told us you were not coming to do. On the basis of one, someone had one. On the basis of that, you said that you are not coming to do that. So now, if you have come and you even have one, we have reason to ask you why you have gone back on your words. No, it's not just one. It's not just two. It's not just three. It's not even 10. You, even in your conservative figure, because you said the holes have been punched, in your conservative figure, you couldn't bring it down to even 15. You stayed at 20. It's outrageous.
And most of these are even family connections that are not directly linked to the president.
It doesn't matter.
So for instance, you mentioned, or the NDC mentions Ken Ofori-Atta, and mentions Kelly Gajepo, and mentions the fact that he's ECG board chairman, and the fact that he's on Bank of Ghana board. I mean, Kelly Gajepo is not in any way related to the president. All those allegations are there. There's also the allegation of. I'm
playing the ostrich, or you are just
I'm asking the question.
You are playing the devil's advocate.
I'm asking the question.
But seriously,
there was also the mention of Nanajua Hackman, who is Gabriel Chidako's wife. On the GPC board.
Kelly Gajepo is co-founder of Data Bank with the finance minister, right? Mm-hmm. They are pali, more than even blood relations.
Yes. So that's the friend's wife.
I'm coming. Now, this Data Bank is still in operation.
Yes.
You take Kelly Gajepo and you give him Bank of Ghana, right? Mm-hmm. He is on the Bank of Ghana board. You take Ogbami, who was with you at Data Bank, and give him Securities and Exchange Committee. And then the minister himself is at the finance ministry. And these are people managing our affairs in the sector that their company is operating in. And you say, we shouldn't be worried about it. We shouldn't be worried that things could go on, insider information and all that could go on to the advantage of the companies that they operated. We don't need to have evidence that it has happened. All we need is the fear that it has happened.
So you say finally that,
or it may happen.
Is there need for this anti-nepotism law that the NDC?
I totally agree. And let me explain. Let me explain. You say you don't understand the PDS thing. Look, what if PDS, if it was not because of the closeness of the people, the Ghanaian partners to the powers that be, most of the things that were sidestepped for them would not have been sidestepped for. And the proof is in the fact that those were the basis for which tier 1 and tier 2 companies were disqualified or disqualified themselves from the bidding process. You understand? But because these people were close to us, and that is where nepotism comes in. Oh, and that this is where we are. Look, I said that it is not that you have evidence that it has happened. It must not even, the mere suspicion that it can happen, we must guard against it and make sure it doesn't arise. And that is where the problem is. So don't come and ask me that, so there are his relations. Is there any proof that somebody has done anything wrong and the president has not been able to crack the whip? No, sir. This president from day one has shown us that he's more tended to cover his people. And I'll give you the example. Bost. When the Bost thing happened, even before investigations could be conducted, the president had come out to tell us that he has had a DNI report that clears the man.
So on the basis of a report,
and was it a relative?
Based on the report,
was Alfred Obin a relative?
Exactly. Alfred Obin was not a relative, but he was an appointee. So if you are able to do that one for just an appointee, what would you not do to cover your family?
Then all the appointees will end up being tagged as friends of the.
No, I'm saying
friends of the president.
I did say Alfred Obin is a friend of the president.
That's not.
No, I said that if you are able to do this to cover up for just an appointee who is not related to you, what would you not do to cover an appointee who is related to you?
But he says he acted based on a BNI
and report. I'm telling you that there was no such. Have you cited that report? In all these,
that's the government's failing for not releasing that report.
There isn't any such report. I'm telling you for a fact. I'm telling you on authority. There isn't any such report.
Okay.
And the subsequent report that actually exists was the one that indicts Alfred Obin has been leaked into the public.
Okay,
you understand?
Right.
So if indeed there was a report that misled the president earlier, that report would have been leaked by now to show that the president acted in good faith. I'm telling you, there is none. If any comes out after today, it will be something of a cover-up.
Okay, all right. Let me come to you, Jifa. So this is what has been said. People, president's family and friends, over 51 according to the NDC figure. The arguments of competence have come in. Arguments of the fact that it's red herrings and all of that. What's your own take on this issue?
I think we're comparing apples and oranges. If someone says, there's a potential threat of nepotism, and then the response is, but these people are credible. That's not the answer. We're in a country that, last year, Nyantechi was caught up in this whole Anas expose. And a chief came out to say, forgive my son, Nyantechi. Are you saying Nyantechi was not qualified to lead the GFA? He's one of the most credible people in the country. That does not mean
who was caught in the middle of a huge
yes. And a chief still came out to say, forgive him. We're in a country where someone will commit a crime. You want to take the person to court, and your family members will come and tell you, because of the family, don't pursue it. So it creates room for corruption, right? So if I'm employing you, Duke, to come work with me because you're my friend, you're my family member, when you do certain things, I might overlook them because you are close to me. You mentioned the people who funded this country and helped us get our democracy and our freedom, not even democracy, our freedom, 1957. George Padamore played a crucial role in Ghana's political policies. Was he Ghanaian?
He was not Ghanaian.
Was he anybody's relative?
He was not. But that was not the basis on which I asked that question.
No, I'm saying we had credible people. And Koma could have said, well, I have my brother and my uncle and my nephew who are credible, so let them advise me. It didn't happen. And I think NDC had a very strong point, but they trivialized it by comparing it to what Akufo-Addo said. If they had stuck on that point of, there are so many credible people in this country, why don't we open the net a bit so that people who don't have any association with the president can actually lead this country? People would have understood where they were coming from. And speaking of the president,
no, don't forget.
How many people...
Jifa, don't forget, not to catch you, but don't forget the kind of politics that we practice in this country.
That's still not an excuse.
No, to quote the NDC chairman, NC, no contribution, no chop. Like, it's a system.
Just because a few people have lowered the standard of our democracy
and even
so
about that,
low, does not mean you and I have to participate in it.
Jifa, in a moment, talking about international best practice, we have the Kennedys. We had a John F. Kennedy government where the Attorney General was...
And the Bush.
Yes, and the Bush family. We have all of that. Just in the UK government now, Boris Johnson's brother, Joe Johnson, was a minister. He had to resign. I mean, for
how many of Barack Obama's family members were in his administration, Duke? Because you are citing Trump. Are we going to cite the lowest standard globally and say because this person is doing it, we can also do it?
Obama's campaign. Maybe that's where we should start from.
He had people involved in his campaign.
His family members.
And my point is, let me even get back to my original point of people accusing the president of appointing his family and friends. The executive is way too powerful. That's the problem. If you have a president who has to appoint thousands of people,
6,000.
Obviously, statistically, this number is even insignificant, to be fair.
51
out of 6,000 is insignificant statistically. But it's ridiculous. If I have to appoint even 500 people for a new company, I'm going to appoint the people I trust, the people I can vouch for. I'm not about to go look through millions of applicants to appoint some random people. We know how Ghanaians work in the public sector. What did you say the other day? Abaye Juma. So there's a certain level of, I need to trust this person. I need to be able to vouch for them. And of course, they will be your friend. They will be your family member because at least you know that this person will attach a certain level of urgency to the issue that your average Joe who has no connection to you will not do. So I think if we had stuck to that point of how do we ensure maybe we revisit the Constitution and we don't make the executive so powerful to a point where the executive has to appoint every single person. And they are working with limited time. So obviously they're going to pick people that they may know. And if you know the person, when they do something wrong, human nature, you are more likely to excuse it, especially in a community and a country where culture sometimes is not good as far as enforcing laws. You see someone has done something wrongly, but culturally, even your lawyer would advise you, even the judge would advise you, let's just, because of this, because of that. So I think that the main issue is the executive is way too powerful. And we need to figure out a way to distribute responsibilities without necessarily making it something that the executive has to do. So that there are so many talented people in this country who do not have to be associated with the Foriatas and the Akufo-Addos and the likes. Is it because if I have to go marry into a family, then I'll get the opportunity? No, but then it's not possible to say a president is going to come here and they won't appoint someone they know. So for me, I don't think it's here or there, but I do think that NDC had a point until they made it political because Akufo-Addo said this. That's why we are also saying this. I think it cuts across board.
All right, okay. So let me bring you some of the messages now. This is from our Western regional correspondent, and congratulations to Kwesi Animeji, the freshly minted journalist of the year for the Western region. Kwesi Animeji. This is a message coming from me. Says, and that's regarding the railway discussion we had earlier. Says your first panelist, and is referring to Gordon, said when you look at what is going on in Takoradi and Accra, it means government is doing well. Can you ask him to tell you what he knows is taking place in Takoradi or the Western region in the railways? Nothing is happening here. What they came to meet in Kojo Krom to Takoradi, they have not done anything about it. So that's from our Western regional correspondent and journalist of the year in that region by name Kwesi Eje Enim. To some more messages, this one from, this one is, a moment, this one is from Kwame Nsawam says, I'm at Nsawam and nothing is happening in the railway sector. Work has stalled for a very long time. This one from Nanaya in Agnasafo says, good evening, Duke. I think government has done tremendously well in the rail sector. Accra to Tema is a classic example. It is our hope that the railway sector continues to be prioritized to ease the pressure on our road and to some extent eliminate ghost roads in the State of the Nation's address. That's from Nanaya. This one from a concerned citizen. I would like it if you add your name to it. It says, ask your panelists, when Joyce Bar Mutari was appointed, they claim it was family and friends. When it's the NDC, they do equalization. When it's the MPP, they talk of competence. Dramani in Kumasi says, so if no government can survive the nepotism test in Ghana, we should not be concerned, right? Too bad. We can equally get very qualified people besides our family members. Let's always strike a healthy balance in our appointments. Dramani from Kumasi. AU Farouk, Tamale North. Good evening. I find it difficult discussing this so-called family and friends government that government has denied. Who is telling us the truth? So those are some of your messages. We've been discussing the accusations and counter-accusations around family and friends appointments into government, put out there first by the NDC and responded to by the NPP earlier, or very, very much earlier, when we looked to detail some of the issues that came up at the Meet the Press series addressed by the Railway Minister, Joe Gatti. We'll be back after this break. You're welcome back. This is press conference right here on Citi TV. I still have in studio Gordon, Jifa, and Kobe. Just come by, we're discussing the accusation from the NDC that the Akufo-Addo administration is operating a family and friends government. Of course, that was also responded to by the NPP, that the NDC should be bringing up issues of policy and other matters of critical national interest to be discussed rather than these issues of family and friends. Finally, next week is budget week. Now, at the end of the most recent cabinet retreat, the information minister gave Ghanaians an idea of what to expect in the budget coming up next week. He mentioned, of course, one of the critical things that this government will be expected, or this budget will be expected to fund, is the election 2020. He touched on that and a couple of other things Ghanaians should expect in the coming budget next week.
Other statutory obligations for the year, especially the election year or election, are to be carried out within the national resource envelope. This is a critical feature of the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. What that means is that all these obligations, we ourselves have to look to funding them. The days where we would have to be relying on donor parts to execute some of these critical national obligations are over. It falls within our ambit. And what that means is that the generation of internal resources to meet those key obligations is key. The President and Cabinet are upbeat about ending the year on a high fiscal and economic performance and delivering a budget for 2020, which will help consolidate the gains made so far for our continued growth and prosperity agenda.
So that's Kujo Opoku, the Information Minister, talking about a budget that will consolidate the gains that we made in the past 2 years. Let me begin with you, Gordon. All
right, Duke, when you were reading the text messages, I heard you mention someone J from Western Region. Did he send the message as in his capacity as a regional correspondent or as
a viewer?
As a viewer.
Fine, if as a viewer, then I will take it for that. But if he sent it as your regional correspondent, I said no. He has to go down there and do a better job.
Oh, that's he just won a very big award.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
He's a journalist of the year.
No, I'm not.
But he said it as a viewer.
Yes, so I'm not trying to downplay his award, whatever.
Right, but
relative to this particular subject of the railway sector, I've been there. I've seen what is happening over there. Fine, that's what he states.
And he's asking you to just tell him what you have seen.
All right, when I went to Takwa, I saw the rehabilitation of railway lines there. I saw it myself.
Okay.
Has it not happened?
Gordon, let's move to
so
budget.
Certain things you don't have to dabble into some of these things.
All right.
Budget. I have a very weird opinion about budgets when they manifest on all these things. This is supposed to be about the fifth budget also.
The fourth budget.
Is it fourth?
Fourth, yes.
2017 there was a budget.
Yes.
And then they do media reviews. I want to see them telling us 2017, 18, 19, what they've done. And then saying, we left out this, we couldn't achieve this, we couldn't achieve that, we couldn't achieve that. So you going forward, you want to achieve these things. But you see a whole new lofty ideas being churned out, and then within a space of 1 year, you cannot complete, even maybe about 40%, you may not even be able to achieve 40%. And then the next government will have to come back and also do a new budget. I would love that they tell us the 4 or the 3 previous budgets that they've read to us, how you've been able to achieve it, what you've not been able to achieve, and how they're going to achieve it. But fortunately for us, was it early this year or last year, there was legislation on the cap as to how the level of budget deficit that you can have.
5%, you cannot exceed 5%.
You cannot exceed 5%. I think that was a very excellent one, but how practical is it? Now,
an election year.
In an election year, because election year, at times, you see it hovering around 57%, but by the time election is due, it will skyrocket.
In 2004, we didn't do budget overrun.
2004.
That's the only...
Since 1992 to it's only 2004 that we didn't have budget overrun. But all the rest had budget overrun. So I'm praying that by 2020, we don't have budget overrun. Okay. Because now, more or less, it's being criminalized. You understand?
Yes, the finance minister can go to jail for that.
Yes, the finance minister can go to jail for that. So let's see how it pans out.
So the Economic Intelligence Unit predicted that we will most likely overspend in our 2020 budget, right? And for me, I don't want to hear any more rhetoric. It's boring. If you don't see it in your reality, it makes absolutely no sense. I would want to see how we can diversify the economy enough so that we don't keep taxing Ghanaians in the 21st century. It's 2019, you know. So I personally want to see more action from taxation to production in a way that we can actually say, this is what we've been able to do. All this 1 district, 1 dam, 1 village, 1 million, 1 constituency, whatever all those things we were saying. This is what we've been able to achieve so far. And in 2-3 years, Ghanaians will really begin to see that we've been able to generate revenue internally to a point where the few people who are paying taxes won't have to feel so punished by our development.
Kobe, you have the final word, and briefly, please.
You see, I am not an economist, and I'm not a prophet, but I can promise you one thing. There's going to be a budget overrun in 2020. And it's very simple. Since 2017, government has never been able to meet its own revenue targets. That's true. Yet, government expenditure is increasing every year. Now, the, space for borrowing is shrinking.
It's getting smaller.
And the appetite of, the people who buy our bonds is going down, rather. They are no longer...
The last time was oversubscribed.
After how many trials?
It was oversubscribed.
After how many trials? No, the point is that when you went in the first time, you failed. If the appetite was high, when you went in the first time, no, you would have gotten...
What about the second trial?
You understand? So that is the space within which the managers of the economy are operating. So this whole, unless there is going to be some magic wand that will be waved to increase revenue to the point where revenue will meet targets, and therefore expenditure and revenue would even be at par, then we will be listening to this.
All right.
But otherwise, this is just one of those rhetorics that is meant to give people, communicators, something to run along with. But in reality, there is nothing in the,
Thank you,
in the
Kobe.
bucket.
That's our edition for this week. My name is Mensah Opoku. I had in the studio Gordon Asari, co-editor for ABC News, Chifa Ametam, host of Breakfast Daily on Citi TV. Catch her tomorrow morning at 7:30. And Kobe Fiagba is editor for the Ghanaian Lens newspaper. And to you out there for doing the watching, enjoy the rest of our program and keep watching Citi TV.